I went and bought a laser welder cleaner. To be honest, I didn't know if they were real. They seemed to be too good to be true. So I spent many hours of research, and the more I researched them, the more I became intrigued, and I knew that I had to have one to test myself. After ordering and paying for it, I had to wait weeks for it to arrive. I was able to follow the ship through as it came through the Suez Canal and all the way from China right to the port here. Then within a few days it turned up. I was confronted with a wooden box, and I didn't have a clue whether what was inside it was going to be any good or not. I was a little bit scared that I'd just spent a lot of money on something that was no good. When I unboxed it, the thing that actually surprised me was how good a quality the machine happened to be. I don't know what I was expecting, but everything about it felt to be nice quality. None of it seemed to be cheap and shoddy. It all felt really good. Now this was a little over a year ago that it arrived, so I'm going to be able to review it with the fact that I've had a year to be able to use it and play with it and start to get used to it. Because as you would expect with anything from China, when it arrives the instructions aren't comprehensive. There was instructions and they were in English, but they were a little bit sparse. So the only way to actually find out how good it was to play with it. Now I bought this predominantly for the ability to clean paint and rust and things from steel, and that's the thing that I've been using it for more than anything. The cleaning function is absolutely fantastic. It works brilliantly. It removes paint, dirt, grease, oil, absolutely everything from the metal surface.
The laser works on line of sight, so if you can see it, you can shoot the laser at it and clean it. If it's in shadow, it won't get cleaned, but you can always go back over it again. One thing you've got to be aware of is what's happening to the laser that shoots past the item you're working on. This is why we've got this metal sheet here to stop the laser from setting fire to anything. You'll see later on in the video how important this is when it all goes horribly wrong. Laser cleaning is a service that we offer, so if you've got something that needs doing, just give us a call. All our contact details are at the end of the video and they'll be in the description below.
You can see for yourself that it's almost magical the way how it cleans this steel. You feel like you're using a lightsaber. It feels like you're in the future. It uses a thing called ablation, where it actually sort of vaporizes the rust when the light contacts with it. because it's a very concentrated beam of light.
I filmed this part in slow motion so we could see what's happening with the laser. You can see it scanning from left to right, and you can also see some bits flying off as the rust is being vaporized by the ablation process. One thing to mention is that the footage I'm putting here is at real-time speed. If I alter the speed of it at all, I will tell you. It's just that a lot of the footage I've seen showing this on the internet is speeded up, but it seems to be fast enough to me anyway. Laser cleaning is a service that we offer, so if you've got something that needs doing, just give us a call. All our contact details are at the end of the video, and they'll be in the description below. This laser cleaning is a much better method to use for cleaning this brake disc because it doesn't put any media into the metal, which is something that you wouldn't want. You wouldn't want abrasives being left in the surface.
The one thing that we have noticed when using it is the distance that the laser is from the workpiece seems to make quite a big difference. So you need to generally fire the laser, then pull back till you can hear it's working really well, and keep it at that distance that you find, and then it works brilliantly.
Here you can see the laser being used properly. It's cleaning off 50 years of corrosion, rust and paint and all sorts of stuff from an old 1973 Corvette fuel tank. Here I'm cleaning some cylinder barrels from an old BSA motorbike. I hadn't learnt when I filmed this that the distance was critical, so I'm a little bit too close. And here's some similar barrels, and there's one that hasn't been cleaned, and there's one that has. Another great advantage is that you can actually use this inside vehicles, etc., without having to remove parts. If there's areas that you don't want to get cleaned, then you can mask them off using aluminium tape. Now we're moving on to my 1963 Buick Riviera. Sometime in its life it was fitted with a vinyl roof, so there's some areas of corrosion where water's got under and it's quite pitted. Now, one massive advantage with this laser is rather than having to grind this out and thin the metal, we can just remove the rust. The flare-ups there are where there's some paint and heavier contamination that are being burnt off. You can see how every trace of rust has been ablated and vaporised. What I'm doing here is I'm cleaning up an area that's got some holes in it where I'm going to do a repair with lead later on. Now, it's in this section here where it starts to go horribly wrong. You watch as the laser shoots through them holes. It's now set fire to the carpet inside. The big problem is I don't know this has happened. There's the view that I see, and I can't see that there's a fire underneath. As I'm cleaning away, the fires are starting to take hold. I still can't see it. This just goes to show how you've got to be super careful when you're using one of these lasers and be aware of what's happening behind it. You can see the smoke starting to come out, but the laser makes smoke anyway. But the fire is getting quite a hold now. I'm completely oblivious to what's going on underneath. It's now when I start wondering where the smoke's come from, and then I see the fire and try and blow it out. But unfortunately, there's a bit too much. And it's a bit hot. Oh, we're on fire. I managed to find a rag and just put it out with that. I have actually got some fire extinguishers handy. I just didn't want to use one at this stage. Let's remove bits of molten carpet from me. Now we've put the fire out, let's have a look at the area that we've cleaned. Now I'm moving on to cleaning an area that would be normally very, very difficult. This did have black paint on it, and although we'd already taken that off with the laser, this has been sat around for a few weeks and it's got a haze of rust on it, and we're getting it ready for paint, so we need to remove that tiny bit of rust. I'm going to speed this up. Laser cleaning is a service that we offer, so if you've got something that needs doing, just give us a call. All our contact details are at the end of the video, and they'll be in the description below. Back to normal speed now. Where you can see those flare-ups, that's where it's burning off some paint residue that had been left before.
I have used it as a laser welder, but I'm not a welder. I don't actually know how to use a MIG welder. So I'm reviewing this from somebody who isn't a welder, but with this machine, I can weld. That's got to say something about the ease of use of these machines.
Here I'm just doing a few test welds. This was not long after I got the machine, where I was playing around with it.
You hear things about penetration of the welds. Well, I've found that it penetrates well. You've just got to mess around with the settings on the machine. When it comes to the laser welding, I've been able to actually use it and weld things together, which is not something that I can do using any other welding systems, whether it's MIG, TIG or arc welding. I don't know how to do that, but with this machine I've been able to do it, which is pretty amazing.
Here I am welding in the edge of a panel that had been let in. Somebody else had done this and I'm just helping finish it off. The hardest bit sometimes is, because it's quite a precision tool, is you can sometimes miss the actual joint, which is what I've done a couple of times, and I'm having to go over it again. It's not the tidiest weld that can be produced by this, but it does penetrate all the way through when it's set right, and when it's cleaned off, that's going to be an invisible weld.
The one thing that you do have to watch is, even though it's got a wire feeder, it struggles with filling gaps. When you're welding something, you don't want to be leaving a gap in between the two pieces of metal like this. It really needs to be tight and touching if possible. But one of the massive advantages with it, it uses far less heat than any of the other methods of welding that I've seen. When you look at it, the actual heat mark around the weld is very, very localized, so it causes a minimum of distortion, so you're able to weld in longer lengths, and it's also very, very quick to weld. It's more similar to TIG welding than it is to MIG visually, but it's a lot faster than TIG welding and requires a lot lower skill level. If I can do it, then just about anybody can do it.
This is a replacement panel that was made and tack welded in under the rear window of the Riviera. Now, using the laser welder, I'm able to seam weld along that edge to stop any water getting in and to make it a really strong repair. I'm happy with that. I think it's a pretty good weld.
So in conclusion, this machine is fantastic. The big downside with it is they're very expensive to buy. If you want to source one in the UK, it's going to cost you a lot of money, because they're a lot cheaper if you order one direct from China. But if you're going to order from China, there's a lot of due diligence that you've got to do and a lot of research before you actually part with any money. I did actually spend a long time doing that, and I felt quite comfortable with the company by the time I'd finished researching it. It was quite a major investment. It cost me about £5,000, which is about $6,500 US at the moment. Does it replace things like shot blasting? No, it doesn't. It's great for some things. If you've got something that you don't want any media to touch, then it's absolutely fantastic, because It doesn't blast anything into the surface. If you clean something, you know there's not going to be a load of grit and media come out at a later date while you're trying to finish it or paint it. It's not a tool that does absolutely everything. It is really, really useful, and especially as my hobby is messing around with old cars and restoring and hot rodding old vehicles, then it is an absolute godsend, because it can be used and it saves so much time in so many different situations that it's just, now it's invaluable. Me and my friends wouldn't know what we'd do without it now. It makes it so much easier to prepare things. On the whole, if you're in the position to be able to get one of these machines and you're willing to do the due diligence needed and find out a company that you can deal with, then I would go ahead and get one. But don't expect it to do absolutely everything, but what it does do, it does fantastically well.